You're walking through a forest. Everything's dead quiet. Even the birds have stopped singing. Then a deer freezes at the edge of a clearing and locks eyes with you, doesn't blink, and a question pops into your head out of nowhere. What is it actually thinking right now? Fear? Curiosity? Or is it sizing you up? We spend an insane amount of time studying animals. We research them, film them, chase them with drones, break down their every move. But almost nobody flips the question around. What do they think about us? And this isn't some fluffy philosophical question. It's got real science behind it. Neuroscience, behavioral research, the whole deal. And the answer turns out to be way more complicated and honestly way more humbling than most of us ever expected. Here's something nobody tells you when you visit a zoo, feed ducks at the park, or go whale watching for the first time. You are not the only one having an experience. On the other side of that encounter, behind those eyes, something is happening too. Something is being processed, evaluated, filed away. An opinion is forming. Today we're going to find out what that opinion actually is. Let's start with something that might make you a little uneasy. Animals are watching you. Right now, somewhere out there, a crow is memorizing a human face. A dolphin is assigning a unique sound to one specific person. An elephant is deciding, based on a single encounter years ago, whether that person can be trusted. This isn't exaggeration. These are documented findings, published in serious scientific journals, coming out of some of the most rigorous animal cognition research out there. And it all points to one uncomfortable truth. Animals don't just react to us, they actually think about us. So let's go species by species, because every one of them has a completely different way of noticing, processing, and remembering the humans they run into. And some of these are going to make you rethink what being seen even means. Crows, the animals that never forget your face's Ks. If you've ever messed with a crow, bad news. Crows have one of the most sophisticated social memory systems in the entire animal kingdom, and a huge chunk of it is dedicated to remembering human faces. There's a well-known study out of the University of Washington that proves this. Researchers wore a specific mask while trapping crows on campus. Weeks later, when those same people put the mask back on and simply walked by, no threats, just walking, the crows recognized them instantly, dove at them, and started scolding and mobbing. But here's the wild part. The crows didn't just remember the danger themselves. They passed that recognition down to their chicks and other flock members, teaching them to spot that same dangerous face, even though those younger birds had never had any run-in with that person at all. The information about a dangerous human got passed down through generations, like a shared community memory. Think about that. A crow that's never even met you might already have beef with you just because your bad behavior toward its parents got passed down. You've got a reputation in the crow community before you've even had the chance to make a first impression. And it works the other way too. Crows that get fed, that get treated well, remember that too. They perch closer to people they like, make different sounds around them, and visibly relax. In Seattle, there are people who've built genuine friendships with individual crows. The crows even bring them gifts, bottle caps, shiny buttons, once even a plastic toy eye. Basically, crows are quietly keeping a personal file on every human they meet. They've got their own reputation tracking system for our species, and honestly, it might be more reliable than some HR departments. Dogs. Love is real, but it's more complicated than you think. Dogs are the animal most of us think we've already got figured out. We've lived alongside them for over 15,000 years. They evolved right next to us, to the point where their brains are practically wired to read us. Brain scans on awake, trained dogs show something incredible. When a dog smells its owner, the reward center of its brain lights up in a way nothing else triggers. Not food, not other dogs. That one specific person is the thing that fires up a dog's dopamine system the hardest. You are, quite literally, the biggest reward in your dog's life. Bigger than a steak. Dogs also read our emotions constantly. Research out of the University of Lincoln and the University of São Paulo shows dogs can tell a happy face from an angry one, even on a total stranger. They can even match facial expressions to tone of voice to figure out someone's mood. They understand pointing gestures better than chimpanzees do. Our closest genetic relatives struggle with tests that dogs pass easily. The leading theory is that domestication wasn't an accident. Over thousands of years, the dogs that were best at reading human intentions and emotions were the ones that survived and reproduced around people. In other words, we accidentally ran a 15,000-year breeding program aimed squarely at emotional intelligence. But it goes deeper than that. Dogs also track our stress levels. When an owner is anxious or upset, their dog's cortisol levels shift too. They're not just watching your emotions, they're absorbing them biochemically. That's part of why therapy dogs actually work. Petting a dog triggers a mutual oxytocin spike in both of you at the same time, a real hormonal sync. And here's a fun one. Dogs know when they're being treated unfairly. In experiments where one dog gets rewarded for a task and another dog does the exact same task and gets nothing, the unrewarded dog stops cooperating, looks away, shuts down. A basic sense of fairness got violated, and the dog knows it. Elephants, memory, grief, and something close to wisdom soul. If crows keep a file on individual people, elephants keep an entire archive. Elephants can tell different human ethnic groups apart just by scent and clothing color. In studies from Kenya's Amboseli ecosystem, elephants showed way more fear and avoidance toward the scent and clothing associated with the Maasai, a group with a history of conflict with elephants, compared to the Kamba, a group with far fewer clashes. This wasn't something one elephant learned from one bad encounter, it's a shared cultural judgment passed down through the whole herd, even to young elephants who never had a scary run-in themselves. Elephants also react differently to death depending on whether it's a human or another animal. There are documented cases of elephants approaching the body of a human they knew, gently touching it with their trunk, lingering, exactly the way they behave when a member of their own herd dies. Some elephants have returned to the exact spot where a human friend died, months or even years later, and just stood there quietly for a long time. Elephants that have been mistreated carry that trauma for decades. Elephants rescued from circuses or logging sites show symptoms that look almost identical to PTSD in humans. Hyper-alertness, exaggerated startle responses, withdrawal, prolonged aggression, even in completely safe environments. But on the flip side, elephants that get consistent, genuine care form deep bonds with specific people. Some have traveled long distances just to greet a familiar keeper after time apart. Some stop eating when a caretaker they know gets sick and start eating again the moment that person recovers. Dolphins, you're the one being studied half. Here's a thought that might mess with you a little. Dolphins might be studying us the exact same way we study them. Wild dolphins have been seen approaching research boats and divers with a curiosity that goes way beyond basic threat checking. They examine equipment, watch procedures, and have even been caught deliberately mimicking divers' movements. In controlled experiments, dolphins have cracked the code and exploited loopholes in study designs so fast that scientists had to keep redesigning the experiments just to keep up. Socially, dolphins assign a unique signature whistle to each person they know well, basically giving people names, and they remember those names for years, even without seeing that person again. What really changes the picture is dolphins' social structure. They live in groups where the lineup is constantly shifting, alliances forming and breaking apart. To survive that, they need a constantly updated social map. Who's trustworthy, who's flaked before, and they apply that same tracking to us. Studies show dolphins respond very differently to people who've been consistent and reliable compared to people who are unpredictable. Birds, the quiet watchers, when it comes to bird intelligence, crows get all the attention. And fair enough, but they're not the only ones paying attention to you. European robins form clear preferences for specific people based on past interactions. Magpies, close relatives of crows and just as underrated, can recognize individual faces too, and have been documented attacking the exact person who once disturbed their nest, while completely ignoring strangers. Even pigeons, the birds most people write off as flying rats, can tell different human faces apart in photographs with impressive accuracy, and remember them for a long time. The price we've paid, and the surprise on the other side, animal behaviorists have a term for it: the landscape of fear, the constantly updating mental map animals carry around of where's dangerous and where's safe. For most large and mid-sized mammals on Earth right now, humans dominate that map in a way no natural predator ever has. A 2019 study published in Ecology Letters played recordings of big predators, lions, leopards, hunting dogs, alongside human voices and human-related sounds, to wildlife across multiple continents. The result was almost always the same. Animals showed a stronger fear response to human voices than to the roar of the biggest predators in their own ecosystem. They're more afraid of us than of a lion. And honestly, they're not wrong. Humans have reshaped this planet's ecosystems more than anything since the last mass extinction. Just the knowledge that a human has been somewhere, through scent, through sound, is enough to change how animals move, feed, and sleep, even when nobody's actually around. But it doesn't stop at fear. Off the coast of Western Australia, near a town called Monkey Mia, there's a wild population of bottlenose dolphins that has voluntarily interacted with specific people for over 40 years. They swim into shallow water on their own, let themselves be touched, and have even been seen bringing fish to people they know, not to eat, but as something closer to an offering. These are completely wild, untrained animals, and generation after generation, they've chosen to keep that relationship going. In East Africa, wild honey-guide birds lead familiar human honey hunters straight to beehives, a mutually beneficial partnership that requires the bird to recognize specific people and know exactly who will follow and who won't. So what do animals actually think of us? Honestly, there's no single answer. It's a whole spectrum. On one end, there's fear so deep it's been baked in across generations, strong enough that a human voice makes animals flee faster than the roar of a predator that's been hunting them for millions of years. That's the scale of damage we've caused. On the other end, which might actually be the same end of the same story, there's something that looks a lot like curiosity, recognition, and trust being slowly extended to a species that hasn't always deserved it. Running through both sides, the fear and the friendship, is one thing: attention. Animals are paying attention to us in ways that are precise, personal, and long-lasting. They're not seeing humans as some vague category. They're seeing you, specifically, and forming a judgment based on what you do, how you do it, and whether you can be trusted. You're a character in their world. You have a reputation, and that reputation keeps getting updated, sometimes even passed along to animals that have never met you. So the question isn't really, what do animals think about humans anymore, since we've got a decent answer now. The real question is, what if we started paying them the same kind of attention back? If we watched with the same patience, the same long memory they use on us, we might discover something surprising, that this relationship we always assumed was one-sided was never actually one-sided at all, that we've always been part of their world. We just never realized it.